So welcome class again. This is question 2 of ATD level 1 paper, Introduction to Law and Ethics. Question 2, we have 3 questions. Explain 5 rules that govern a sale by auction. That is part A. Part B, discuss 4 ways of creating an easement. And part C of the question, define virtue theory of morality. So we'll start with the first part. Explain 5 rules that govern a sale by auction. Explain 5 rules that govern a sale by auction. Now, this is a sale of goods, and one of the ways is that we can sell goods through auction. And the auction, basically, in an auction, we have the principal, the agent, we have the principal, who is the seller. Then we have the agent, who is the auctioneer, who basically conducts the sale process, and of course they are selling to the buyer. So the agent is the auctioneer and receives instructions from the principal, who in this case is the seller or the owner of the goods that are being sold. So just to quickly define what an auction is a public sales event for a property or goods in which the bidders are invited to place their competitive bids, and of course the highest bidder will take the day. So people are invited. Normally there is a notice, and they are invited to make bids, competitive bids at that, and whoever emerges with the highest bid will go with the goods. So that is all about that. And we have the seller, who is the principal. We have the agent, who is now the auctioneer, the one in charge of the auctioneering process. And of course, we have the buyer. So that is not our area of interest. Let's go to the question. 5 rules that govern a sale by auction. Maybe again, before we go to these rules, it could be very important that we look at the sale process, because it can guide us in one or the other. The process of auction sale. Number 1, you normally send an invitation to the potential buyers. You send an invitation. And of course, these people will be allowed now to make competitive bids. So they will be allowed to place competing bids. And the auctioneer will normally start with the lowest bid and go all the way. People place bids. And of course, the highest bidder will win the bidder. The hammer will fall. And immediately the hammer falls, that will be the end of that auctioneering process for that particular item. And at that point in time, the buyer has to pay the agreed price, and of course it has to be in cash. It has to be in cash to complete the whole transaction. That is what happens in a normal auctioneering process. So some of the rules that are to be observed during the auctioneering process, which is now the question that is before us. Number 1 is that number 1 rule is that the fall of hammer completes the sale. Fall of hammer completes the sale. Fall of hammer completes the sale. We've just said fall of hammer completes the sale. We've just said that a notice will be sent, and different potential buyers will be placing their bids. The bids will start from the lowest and they go all the way rising. Now, the fall of hammer is when the auctioneer confirms that now this auction is over and this is the highest bidder. So the moment he confirms this is the highest bidder, and then we say that the hammer has fallen, and so that is equivalent to now the sale. And we go to the next process, where now this potential buyer is now supposed to, the exchange process is now supposed to give the cash, as the auctioneer now, delivers the goods to him. So the fall of hammer is basically the completion of the sale process. And what you are saying at that point is that now the bid has already gone to the highest bidder. The other thing is that the seller can always reserve the seller can always reserve, the seller can always set a reserve price. The seller can always set a reserve price. This is the price beyond which the sale should not fall. So, for example, remember, it's all dependent on the bids that are going to be placed by the various buyers. So the seller can say that, yes, let's start from the lowest price and go all the way, but the price should not fall below this level. It's like the floor of the price, that it should not, under whatever circumstances, go below this level. That is what we're talking about. That the seller can set a reserve price, that is the minimum price beyond which the auction should never fall. So it is allowed, it is a rule, it's one of the rules that the seller can set a reserve price, which is the minimum price that the contract can, the auction can fall below. Then the other rule is that pretended bidding is fraudulent. Pretended bidding is fraudulent. What do we mean by pretended bidding? Pretended bidding is where possibly you put some people around so that they can keep on raising the bids, you know. So, and by doing that, you know, of course, these are artificial people that you've just created to raise the bid so as to increase the price of that item. You know, there are those people who are actually willing to buy that item. So they will also keep increasing their bids because others have also increased the bids. So these people that you've just put there on purpose to increase the bids so that they can raise the price of that item for the sake of it, once they are noticed, once it is noticed that we have those people, you planted those people in an auctioneering process, then the whole of that bidding can be declared fraudulent, and the buyer can choose to void the contract. So we can simply say that pretended bidding is fraudulent, and it goes that if you are the auctioneer, you are not supposed to plant people there to put up the bids so as to raise the price of the item that you are auctioneering. So that will go as our point number 3. We are working with 5. Number 4, when goods are sold in lots. When goods are sold in lots, each lot is a separate contract. Each lot is a separate contract. So, for example, when we have items, that so many items that now form one lot, and we are selling them in those lots, then it means one lot is one contract, and they're supposed to be bid as a group like that. And even when it comes to purchasing, you purchase them as a, you know, in that group that it was when it was being auctioned. So if we're talking about so many items placed together, then those items will go as one. And that's what we mean by when goods are sold in lots. In lots, each lot is a separate contract. So they will be bid as a bunch, and they'll also be paid for as a bunch. Then the other rule is that knockout agreement is not illegal. Knockout agreement is not illegal, which means it's allowed. Knockout agreement is allowed, and this is where one person comes with a good price, which is within the expectation of the auctioneer, and he just takes the item or the commodity off the market. So it is not illegal. That means that it is allowed, it is okay. The other one is auctioneer has the right to put conditions of his choice. Auctioneer has the right to put conditions, of his choice. So yes, he can come up with conditions. He has a right reserved to him. The other thing is that the seller can reserve the right to bid. The seller can reserve the right to bid. So that means that he has the rights reserved to him, and he can choose. It's a privilege that has been basically set for him. That also goes on as one of the rules, that the seller has the right to reserve who to bid. The seller can reserve the right to bid. That is one of the rules also that we can work with here. I think these are enough. This should be around 6, 7. Let's work with this as being the rules that can govern sell by action. Pick any 5 of these and we'll be good to go. Now, let's move to the next question. Discuss 4 ways of creating an easement. Discuss 4 ways of creating an easement. And we'll start this question by defining what an easement is so that we are just on the same page. Now, an easement is the right to use another one's property, another person's property. And in most cases, we talk about the land. So we can simply say that it's the right to use, to cross or otherwise use another person's land for specified purpose. The right to use another person's land for specified purpose. We'll say that that is what an easement is. The right to use another person's land for a specified purpose, or to cross another person's land for a specified purpose. Now, remember, naturally, when this is another person's land, it means that he has the rights to own that property. But then we have ways in which possibly can allow easement to take place, because we've just said that easement is where another person has the rights to use another person's land, maybe to cross or use it in any other way, yet the land doesn't belong to him. So what are the ways in which you can create an easement? Number 1, you can create an easement expressly. And by expressly, what we mean is that you agree. Normally, this is a mutual agreement which is written and meets all the requirements of a valid contract. So you expressly, you come into terms, you agree, you have agreement, and the agreement is written and it meets all the requirements of a valid contract. We say that that one is expressly agreed. The parties involved can put their heads together and they willingly accept to the terms that are before them. That is what we say expressly. Within their knowledge, they accept the terms, they sign, and it meets all the requirements of a valid contract, which can possibly be even stand in the court of law. That is what we mean by express agreement. So one of the ways that we can create an easement is by express agreement or express grant. We can simply say express grant or express agreement. The other way is by implication. What we mean by implication is simply behavior that if we've been behaving in a manner to show that the other party can use this piece of land, or he has been using a certain piece of land for quite a long period of time without any problem, then by our behavior or our code of conduct, it simply shows or says that we have allowed that particular behavior to go on. So if you allow somebody, or somebody has been, you've let somebody continue doing something in your piece of land for quite a considerable period of time without you stopping, then you can simply say that you have created an easement by implication. So what we can possibly say here is that the surrounding circumstances dictate that the easement must have been intended by the parties. The surrounding circumstances, the way you carry yourself, the body language, the conduct, the behavior, shows that you people have allowed the other, that kind of behavior. If you are the owner of the property, you've allowed the other party to continue using your piece of land. So in such a case, you'll have created an easement. Implication is simply by behavior or conduct. The way you behave, you possibly says or speaks a lot about whether you have accepted or not. Then we have easement by necessity. By necessity, this is where the circumstances force the usage of your piece of land, especially when you are talking about maybe a person is landlocked, or a certain thing has happened that has necessitated that this person crosses over your land. We say that we have created an easement by necessity. Necessity is when something happens that forces you to go out of your way and use or interfere with another person's property just for the sake of ensuring, maybe something bad doesn't happen or something good happens, or something that was mandatory, was very important that you do. So we can say that we can create an easement when the act before us was a necessity, that you must have done that. And it even happens when maybe in case of fire or something, and you cross over another person's land so that to stop the fire or something. That one you'll have created an easement by necessity. Then we also have by prescription, easement by prescription, and this is where I'll give you an example that can best explain this. For example, there's somebody who has been using a piece of land for the last 25 years. He has been using your piece of land. He has been crossing over your land to go to the market and back for all those years, and you've not been saying anything. All those years. Now one day you want to stop him from crossing over your, yeah. That is what possibly, that's where prescription will come in. That if this person has been using this piece of land for all this period of time, of course, prescription comes in without your permission. Implication, possibly there is some permission. You knew this and you allowed it to happen, but for prescription, you possibly did not even accent to what is happening. It's kind of, I think the best word to talk about here is there is some kind of hostility in this when you talk about prescription. So somebody uses your land, he has been using it, you don't want, but you don't have an option. That is the easement by prescription, that he has to use that piece of land, whether you like it or not, to possibly go the other end. It may not be your choice, but it is what just the circumstances demand, that he has to use that piece of land. He has been using it, he has to use it whether you like it or not. That is what is meant by prescription means. So I will advise further that you go check on all these: express grant, implication, necessity, prescription, and there's also another one, reservation. preservation. You can also check on that, but these will form the answers to this question. Implication, express grant, by prescription, then by as a necessity. These are the 4 ways of creating an easement. Please, you can check on all this, get the notes for them. Then, define virtue theory of morality. Virtue theory of morality is more of how best we can behave, to achieve a certain set of results, how best we can behave to achieve a certain set of results, as opposed to the rules that should guide us to achieve a certain set of results. So, as opposed to the rules. So we are putting a lot of emphasis on the behavior, how we ought to carry ourselves, or how we ought to behave to achieve a certain set of goals or results, as opposed to the rules that we need to have that can help us. We have the rules and we have the real behavior. So the virtue theory basically stresses on our character, how we are supposed to carry ourselves to make sure that we achieve the desired end results. It figures out the kind of behavior that we are supposed to depict, so as to come to get the best of ourselves. We are talking about things like humility, things like honesty, things like patience, things like, those are some of the virtues that we have. Integrity, straightforwardness, transparency, those are virtues, but they should depict in our behavior, as opposed to just being in the rules. It's one thing to have the virtues in rules and to practice them. So the virtue theory is about practicing the behavior that will probably help us get to attain the level that we really would have wished to attain. The opposite of virtue is vice, and vices are negative character traits like greed, like dishonesty, like impatience, like corruption. Those are vices. So virtue theory simply tells us to behave, to look at our character and behave accordingly in a manner that will help us get the best results. It's about knowing our rights, about caring for other people's rights, about ensuring that we coexist with people well. Those are some of the kinds of things that we talk about when we refer to virtue theory. Now, the definition that we can give to this is that virtue theory is an ethical framework, yes, that says what we ought to focus on, and not on what rules to follow. So it's not about the rules; it's about how we should behave, how we should be, and what are some of the ethical considerations that we ought to imitate to achieve the best results. Thank you. I think that is our end of question 3. In your free time, make sure you go through all these points again. The first topic, auction, sale of goods. That's where you get a lot of stuff about auction. The second one, this is creating an easement, about the property. And then, of course, this one is about ethics. So, thank you. Let's meet in the next question. We'll be discussing question